I think Korn might be one of the only metal bands not on incarceration this weekend. Out there in Mansfield. Kicks off tonight. Tomorrow night, 2 hours to midnight, is our Saturday night metal show, and we're doing all incarceration bands tomorrow night. It's me, Corey Roddick, and Pat Butler. Local music from Dark Secret. But the rest of it's going to be bands playing incarceration. So we'll hit your headliners. We'll hit some of the lesser-known bands. And it'll be a lot of fun. So tomorrow night, 2 hours to midnight, starts at 10 here on MMS. If you are in a metal band locally, you want us to play your stuff. If I like it, I'll play it. You can email 2htm@wmms.com. And the playlists week to week, because there's no podcast version of it. You got to hear it live. But you can recreate your own show with the playlists. They're on the 2 hours to midnight Facebook page and at WMMS.com. Congrats, by the way, to Jason Patton. He's out in Medina. That's Bill Squire country. And he got the last Buzzard bike key from me on the air. Now, if you struck out on the air, Charlie is going to be set up at Rookies in Parma, right there on Pearl Road, right near where Ridge and Pearl intersect. And he's going to be at Rookies from 5 until 7. And I think he might have maybe a dozen keys. So like the last bunch of keys is going to go out with Charlie. And then we're going to give this thing away next weekend. And we'll have all those details for it. I will be your host for that. And it should be a lot of fun. Monday on the show, I will have full details and passes for you to join us on the return of the Alan Cox Show cruise. It's Captain Fun's Floating Fandango on the Nautica Queen. And it's brought to you by Bud Light and MMS. And I'll have all the info for you on Monday. If you want to go see Violent Femmes, I'll have those tickets for you. I'll put you on Jet Express if you're heading out to Put-in-Bay the remainder of the summer. And Alter Bridge is doing a show in a couple of weeks with Seven Dust at Jacob's Pavilion. So we'll do all those next week. What else? Guardians are back tonight. They're in Texas. They're not back home until next week. They'll play the Rangers. They'll head to Pittsburgh. They'll play the Pirates. And then they'll come back and host the Phillies 1 week from today. But you'll hear all of it tonight. It's an 8:05 start against the Rangers on MMS. And what else? I've got some Kids Corner here for you.
It ain't easy being a kid. Now look at what you gone done did. Whoa, it's time for Kids Corner. Kids Corner.
You know, our own Bill Squire is an Los Angeles Chargers fan.
Yes.
And what do they say? They bolt it down.
No, bolt up.
Bolt up.
Bolt up.
Phillip Rivers, who used to be the Chargers quarterback, he and his wife are welcoming their 10th child.
They almost have a full team.
It's
21 years apart between the oldest and the baby.
God. Enough. What are you running, a quiverful family there?
I mean, when you got money like him and you
Do you have a lot of money?
It in, yeah, I mean, you played in the NFL for like 14, 15 seasons and probably made $100 million over that time. So.
That's a guy who does not, when you have that many kids and you are working that hard at what you do for a living, it's not like this guy was home all the time, right? Mm-hmm. He's always practicing. What do they say in professional sports? There's no off season. You know, you might take the family on a vacation or something, but it's basically your wife doing all the work. And she's acquiesced to this. Takes two to tango. He retired a year before last. He played 17 seasons. He's now a high school football coach at St. Michael Catholic in Fairhope, Alabama. And he made a big announcement that they're expecting a boy this fall.
Well, congrats.
Like Bill said, their other 9 kids range in age from 4 to 21. He said, we've pretty much had one every 2 years.
That poor woman.
But again,
all natural births?
Well, they didn't get that specific in the article. What's the state of your wife's vagina?
Is it a gaping hole or what?
Could we maybe ease off the throttle there a little bit?
Sorry.
Hey, do you have to strap a 2x4 to your ass so you don't fall in, Phil?
I got excited.
It's like that when you guys are going at it.
On top of a volcano?
Hey, man, like throwing a hot dog down hallways or one of those situations.
Love you, but please don't touch my vagina.
No one wants to touch my vagina.
They currently have 7 girls and 2 boys. They were pulling for another boy, and now they have one. His oldest son will be the starting quarterback for St. Michael this season. No pressure. His oldest son, Gunner. His mom comes from a family of 9 children, and her father, his wife's father, comes from a family of 9 also. Why not just stop the cycle? Why? I mean, we thought we would be a 3rd generation of 9, he says, but we decided to go double digits. Well, there you go. That's
9 times.
very exciting for them. He said, actually, we didn't decide it. God decided.
God
9
decided it.
times.
Yeah. You know how God
Why don't
hates
you
birth
take
control?
credit for how good you are at getting your wife pregnant?
Sexing.
Yeah. Don't say it was God that made you good at having sex. It's you, Philip.
Yeah, quit. What are you afraid of? Why do you feel so guilty about
So if
knocking
you
up your
are,
wife?
if you are a family who says we'll leave it in God's hands, that means
Leave it in God's hands and your wife's vagina.
right. But that means that you just now obviously this is a situation where they're very wealthy. So it's not a monetary thing. There are plenty of families who do this. The Lord will provide. But they don't have a pot to piss in, nothing. But they just keep. So is the belief that, well, if we don't want to have more kids, we just stop having sex because they're anti-birth control? Is that what it is? Or until my wife hits menopause, she'll just be
keep
a
going,
baby
yeah.
factory. Is that what it is?
I
I
think
have
so.
no-
That's the thought?
Well, I mean, in my religion, like being Pentecostal, you weren't supposed to use birth control.
Right.
It wasn't as crazy, but everyone had like 5 kids,
Right.
like 6 kids. So it was more pull and pray, not in the sense you hope she doesn't get
Oh,
pregnant.
pull and pray. Okay.
Pull and pray in the sense of, like you said, God will provide. If we're meant to get pregnant, we'll get pregnant, and he wouldn't give us anything we can't handle.
But that's also what makes people who can't get pregnant pissed off.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, so God just doesn't think, I want a kid over here. You guys are cranking them out like Lucy and Ethel on the candy line, and I Love Lucy. Nice contemporary reference for the audience.
Killing it. Young and spry. Keep going.
Hip and with it, Mary. Yeah, that's pretty wild. 10 kids. Also, remember that millionaire who was injecting himself with his son's blood because he was desperate to stay young? You want to talk about young and spry. This millionaire tech mogul, Brian Johnson. This was the guy who was making a big deal about the fact that he was getting granular data on every function of his body. He was eating exactly. He had a daily routine of everything, right? He had hired a company to monitor his biomechanics and all this stuff. Fancied himself the biohacker. And he was injecting himself with his teenage son's blood. This sounds like what Fox News people are always accusing liberals of doing. I guess this is perfectly fine. Like, they're draining babies of their blood so that they can. This guy was trying to reverse the aging process by injecting himself with his son's blood. For a guy that smart, that sounds like a very kind of juvenile understanding of how blood. Anyway, he said none of this works. He's 45 years old. He spent millions of dollars trying to reverse his age. And he had a daily routine overseen by a team of 30 doctors that he paid for and hired. And he has finally said none of this is doing anything. He said that he turned his biological clock back a number of years. He's 45, and he looks 44 and a half.
Yeah, but he
Good for
feels
him.
20.
What's that?
Said, but he feels 20.
Maybe.
Could you imagine being one of the doctors that he hires? Like, you graduate medical school, you work your ass off. You're like, I can't wait to have my own practice. And then this guy calls you, and your family's like, what gig did you land in? And you're like, I gotta watch this guy drink blood. And I gotta tell him.
Well, he's not drinking it.
I gotta tell him that it's not gonna work. And he doesn't believe
if
me.
you, I bet if you're one of those doctors, it's probably very interesting because you get to get. Well, yeah, because no, but he's funding. It's like, listen, any research person needs funding, and these people, he probably got people who wanted to study this. So you're not going to get like a GP or a pediatrician or something. He probably got a wide array of doctors, but all of whom could use him as a case study. Does this work? Because listen, the person who discovers anything having to do with either stopping aging or essentially reversing it, they're going to be a trillionaire. So this guy's like, hey, study me and we'll do this and I'll pay for it. If I were one of those doctors, I would probably think that was pretty cool. But he was having constant tests done on himself. They were measuring his lungs and his erections and blah, blah, blah. One of these guys who's desperate to not get older. And he doesn't look that different. And he spent a lot of money on it. He said, my left ear is 64. My fitness tests say I'm 18. My heart is 37. And my diaphragm strength is 18. So he was bragging that he had already turned his biological clock back. And that could be very true. But there are people who don't spend millions of dollars and just kind of take care of themselves. And a doctor will go, yeah, your biological age is a few years younger than you. That's good. That's good news. I think this guy thought that he would. I feel bad for his son, who's 18. And he's like, Dad, could I just be 18 and you be 45? Could we just do that?
What was that movie, that My Sister's Keeper, where they made a second baby because their first kid had leukemia? So they essentially created this baby from stem cells or something. So
it was like a Cameron Diaz movie.
Yeah,
or something,
and then she like grows up and she sues her parents, where she's like, I'm tired of donating my body parts to my sister.
Yes.
Like, I want to be myself.
Right.
But this is like the real life thing that he was like, dude, I gotta quit giving you my blood.
Yes.
Like, you have to stop.
I'm not your organ farm for
Right.
or whatever. Yeah. Just because you are terrified of getting older.
I think Alec Baldwin might be her lawyer in that. My Sister's Keeper.
My Sister's Keeper.
Yeah, but it was like the late 90s maybe, or the early 2000s when that movie came out, so this was all like cutting edge.
She's been retired for a minute too, so.
The little girl?
No, Cameron Diaz.
Oh.
She married the Good Charlotte dude and retired. So this guy was like, I'm always teasing my son. I say, when I grow younger, I want to be like you. Okay. But it seems like, it's like vampire type stuff. He said that he was trying the process with his son and his father, who was 70. And so, but I mean, again, the guy, yes, he's in really good shape. If you had a team of 30 doctors on you, you would too. But he said that he was ending the whole process because there was no benefit to injecting himself with his son's blood.
Took him forever to get there.
Yeah.
Like when people were telling him in the first place, like, hey, this doesn't do anything. He's like, no, it feels good.
A biochemist in Los Angeles who was quoted said, we have not learned enough to suggest that this is viable human treatment for anything. It seems gross. It's completely free of evidence and probably very dangerous. So this guy's team of 30 doctors, nobody told him that because he was funding the whole thing. So they're not going to tell him, bro, this is not going to do what you think it's going to do.
Knock it off.
Knock it off. Stop drawing blood from your son. And then finally, a complete 180 here in Kids Corner is the dad who lost his 11-year-old son only to find out that somebody, this is a wild story. A dad, his son Gannon Stouch, Al Stouch is the dad. Gannon was only 11 years old when he was stabbed and shot to death by his stepmother. Okay? Not even the mom, just the woman that the guy was married to killed his son. And found out that a YouTuber had obtained the autopsy photos and was charging people to view them online.
Dude, this is like that episode of Black Mirror I watched.
Oh.
Yeah.
Of that Curiosity, the Black Museum or whatever.
Yeah. By the way, Black Mirror calls it again with this whole like SAG-AFTRA AI thing. It's like Jonah's Awful.
Yeah.
They figured it out. So Al Stouch finds out that this YouTuber, all they had to do was file a Freedom of Information Act request because it was technically a matter of public record because the autopsy photos had been shown at the trial for the woman. And so a person running an account on YouTube was charging her followers $3 to view them. You know, we were talking yesterday about how, or the day before, about you said if people want to see, we played a clip of Mary working out some new material, and Bill was taking her to task because you said you had a real problem with people posting photos of them with their dead relatives on social media.
Yes, posting a dead body.
Dead body. And that who the hell wants to look at this stuff? This person was charging people $3 a pop to see them.
That's what yeah, people are weird,
See,
dude.
people, yeah.
They're into it.
People like stuff. So just because you don't like it, let them post their dead bodies.
Why do we need to go have a freedom of information request and pay for this kind of information and then dishonor my son by putting these photos out there like that? I mean, the world got to see it. I don't know how well you followed it, but the only day I chose not to come to the trial was the day that they showed the autopsy photos. Now I feel like I can't even go on YouTube without the possibility of accidentally coming across these photos.
Yeah, that's the dad who's trying to find some recourse to, but he's not sure there's anything he can do.
Well, he's also not going to accidentally come across it. He has to pay $3 for it, right? It's behind a paywall.
Yeah, but somebody could buy them and post them somewhere else.
I guess, yeah.
Maybe it's an NFT. They said that the images of his son's body were so graphic that parts of them were blocked at the stepmother's murder trial. And that was who he was talking about there, that he didn't go in because he knew that those photos were going to be there. But I didn't even think that was I guess I never thought of something like that as being available to the public, where you could just file an FOIA application and they go, yeah, here you go.
Only if it was used at the trial.
Right.
If it wasn't used at the trial and it was just police evidence.
That's what I mean,
yeah.
right. But I guess I never think of that as being part of the public record and available to people. You think of those requests for like documents and things like that. But this person, entrepreneur that they are, I didn't see.
How much has she made?
I don't know about that. This person is a true crime YouTuber. I mean, it is true crime. Again, I don't know. That's a whole other level of somebody's like, hey, here's somebody's dead kid. I'm going to charge. I have no connection to this person, but I'm going to charge you to look at it. You kind of turn the whole thing into a sideshow. So obviously the story gets out and they pull the girl from like all of the platforms and whatever, because it pretty much violates the terms of service, I would imagine. Letitia Stotch was the stepmother. She stabbed him 18 times while he tried to fight her off before she hit him in the head and then shot him. She then put him in a suitcase and drove to Florida to dump it over a bridge. And so obviously the dad is like, yeah, I didn't, this is not anything that I want a part of. But listen, just one more thing to worry about. And we all need those. Here's one thing you don't have to worry about. The Bill Squire Friday Get Down.
Yeah.
That's how we get the weekend going around these parts.
The Mary Santora at Hilarities edition.
Oh, God. You're going to dedicate it to me so I have to stay for it?
Mm-hmm.
Annoying.
I got to tell you, I took a little bit of umbrage. Sure, he's a colleague. He's a valued pal. But our own Chocolate Charlie out there at Rookies in Parma, I heard one of the promos or somebody talking about how Charlie was going to get the weekend going.
What the hell?
At Rookies. And I'm like,
I'm gonna
sorry?
Go crazy.
Are you in a different time zone? The Bill Squire Friday Get Down is less than an hour away. That is how the weekend gets started around